Okay, picture this. You've stepped back into the bustling world of the Middle Ages. You've been traveling all day, the sun's beating down, and you are so thirsty. What's the first thing you instinctively reach for? If your mind jumps to a cool, refreshing glass of water, well, you might not actually last very long. So prepare for a deep dive into a world where every sip told a story. Often a story of risk, resilience, and some truly surprising ingenuity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today we're exploring the remarkable world of medieval drinks. From the hidden perils of what seems like a simple cup of water, right up to the sophisticated sips of the nobility. We're going to uncover what people truly drank, why they chose those beverages, and what it all reveals about daily life centuries ago.
And our mission really is to take you beyond the obvious, to reveal the hidden culture, the dangers, and maybe even some of the delights found in every medieval mug.
Exactly. And you're in for some genuine aha moments, because you'll quickly discover that medieval beverages were far more than just thirst quenchers.
Oh, much more. They were tools for survival, vital medicine sometimes, markers of social status, and truly kind of the glue that held society together.
So we're going to bring these stories to life with some fascinating facts and some quirky details you won't forget.
Let's get into it.
So let's start at the most basic level. Our first stop in this medieval thirstscape is something we take entirely for granted: water. And the truth about medieval water is, well, to put it mildly, pretty perilous.
It's almost impossible for us to imagine today, isn't it? But straight water was widely feared and often deadly, a stark contrast to its essential role in our modern lives.
Why was it so bad?
Well, think about it. Medieval wells were often disturbingly close to cesspits, where all the waste went.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and rivers, often described as a kind of brown stew, full of sewage, waste from tanneries, even animal carcasses sometimes. Sources describe the water as murky, maybe greenish, with bits of something visibly floating in it. Ugh. Just imagining that murky, greenish water is unsettling. And the grim reality was they had no concept of germ theory, right?
None at all. Microbes, bacteria, completely unknown concepts. People just knew that drinking water often made you weak. It led to stomach cramps, fevers, and what historical accounts frankly call terrifying deaths.
Wow. And yet, people still drank it.
Villagers, even children, often drank from these unsafe sources out of sheer necessity. There wasn't always another option. It was an everyday horror, really.
That's just, scary.
And their approach to safety is particularly revealing. Medieval logic, for example, saw carved wooden cups with lids as protection, but protection against what they called evil vapors, not germs.
So it wasn't about sanitation as we know it.
Not really. It makes you wonder how often we still invent our own rituals to make ourselves feel safe today without maybe fully understanding the underlying science. It's sort of timeless human tendency, isn't it? Creating narratives, even superstitious ones, to manage fear when true knowledge is absent. That's a really interesting point, a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So even with all that fear, were there any circumstances where people actually did drink water safely? Or safer?
Yes, there were exceptions. Knights on long marches, shepherds out in the hills, even royalty sometimes. They might drink sweet water from carefully protected springs if nothing else was available.
Okay.
And pilgrims often sought out holy wells. They viewed them as sacred, looking for spiritual blessings as much as hydration. So water was this paradox, deadly and vital all at once.
It really highlights the massive difference between their world and ours. Compare that medieval gamble where every sip was basically a roll of the dice with our modern convenience of bottled, purified water. In a world where average lifespans barely reach 40, maybe less, that gamble wasn't taken lightly at all.
Absolutely not.
So if water was often a death sentence, what was everyone drinking to survive? Let's move on to the true workhorse, the daily bread of the Middle Ages, ale.
Yes, ale. This wasn't just a beverage, it was liquid sustenance. It was the most common daily drink, utterly essential for survival and nutrition.
More like food than drink, almost.
In a way, yes. It acted more like liquid bread than simply an intoxicant. People drank it at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, not primarily to get tipsy, though that could happen, but because it provided vital calories, and crucially, it was a safer alternative to water.
And we're not talking about strong craft beers here, are we?
No. Mostly this was small ale, weak in alcohol, maybe only 1 or 2%, but potentially richer in nutrition from the grains. It was brewed constantly. Sources suggest it really permeated daily life. It had just enough alcohol to kill off most of the dangerous microbes in the water used to brew it.
But not enough to knock you off your feet all day.
Well, that's the debate, isn't it? Scholars still argue whether people were constantly feeling a low-level buzz or if their bodies simply adapted to this constant low-level alcohol consumption. We don't fully know.
Huh. Imagine that.
Regardless, the sheer volume brewed meant that, as one source put it, the whole town often smelled like a brewery.
Wow. And here's a fascinating detail I read. Brewing was often a woman's craft.
That's right. These brewsters became so common, and their appearance often depicted with wide-brimmed hats to keep the sun off, maybe stirring a big cauldron, sometimes with a cat nearby to keep mice from the grain.
Wait, are you saying?
Well, some scholars suggest this imagery actually contributed to the later stereotypes associated with witches.
No way. Your daily pint has links to witch imagery. That's wild.
It's a theory, but it makes you think, and it reflects the practicalities. Brewing still involved soaking grain, mashing, boiling, cooling, fermenting. Bad batches were a real concern. They could still cause stomach trouble.
How could you tell if it was okay?
Apparently, a good, foamy head on a properly fermented batch was a visible sign of reassurance. It meant the yeast was working, and it was likely safe to drink.
Right, so ale was this social glue, too, connecting farmers, laborers, even priests.
Absolutely, a communal experience. And monasteries, in particular, became centers where brewing techniques were often perfected. They had the resources, the time, the literacy to record recipes.
Can you imagine, though, a drink that tasted, what was the description? Thick, grainy, almost like chewing on wet bread being your main source of daily liquid.
Yes, it gives you a real sense of just how fundamental it was, puts our modern preferences into perspective.
It really does. Okay, so moving on from the everyday ale, we find a very different kind of drink that spoke volumes about its consumer. Wine. This sounds like a sip of status.
Oh, definitely. If ale was for the masses, wine was certainly a badge of status. Primarily consumed by nobles, clergy, wealthy merchants. It signified wealth, connections, refinement.
But maybe not the kind of wine we'd enjoy today.
Probably not. Its taste profile was often quite different. Sources describe it as potentially sour, rough, maybe even a bit vinegary sometimes. Not at all like the smooth Cabernet you might know, as one historian put it.
So what did they do? Just drink sour wine?
Often they'd mask it. Add spices like cinnamon or cloves, maybe honey or herbs.
Like mulled wine.
Essentially, yes, a kind of medieval mulled wine. And scholars debate whether this was purely for taste or also for perceived health benefits. Medieval doctors believed spiced wine balanced bodily humors.
Ah, the four humors. Black bile, yellow bile, phlegm, and blood. That old theory.
Exactly. The ancient idea that health depended on the right mix of those bodily fluids. So spiced wine was like medicine you could enjoy.
So they were basically drinking medieval mulled wine year-round for health. That's quite something. And here's an intriguing paradox you mentioned earlier. Despite water's dangers, wine was sometimes diluted with it.
Yes. Isn't that fascinating? Pure wine was sometimes considered too strong for the body, too potent, so they'd add water.
The irony. Adding dangerous water to your expensive wine because a doctor advised it.
It highlights that blend of folk belief, rudimentary medical understanding, and maybe just personal preference. Drinking wine, especially at feasts, was truly an act of theater, displaying social standing.
But not without its own risks.
No, spoilage was common, barrels could leak, and accounts even mentioned concerns about being ripped off on overpriced wine.
Huh. Some things never change.
Indeed. Consumer complaints are eternal, and of course we can't forget the spiritual significance. Sacramental wine played a holy role in religious ceremonies.
True. It makes you think about how even today, certain drinks signify status or play a role in rituals, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But grapes weren't the only fruit being fermented. Let's shift focus a bit to the orchard delights. Cider and perry.
Ah, yes. These were the regional heroes, right? Offering a lighter, maybe sweeter alternative? Especially in places too damp or cold for grapes to thrive easily.
Exactly. Think Normandy in France or Herefordshire in England, places where orchards served as the local wineries, so to speak.
Now, what were they like?
Well, cider from apples was often described as golden, maybe cloudy, with a gentle tang, less sharp than some wines, but livelier than ale. Perry, made from pears, was generally smoother, softer, very local traditions tied to the land.
And I read that brewers sometimes added unusual ingredients.
They did. Herbs, honey sometimes, even things like beetroot or crab apples. Partly for different flavors, but maybe also just to stretch the brew, make it go further. You can imagine the results were sometimes unpredictable.
Haha, beetroot cider. Not sure I'd try that.
It shows that pragmatic, waste not, want not approach again. Seasonality was huge here too. Harvests brought abundance, communal tastings. Winter often meant rationing these precious fruit-based drinks.
And even these drinks caused some debate.
Yes, sources show some priests criticized orchard drinks, saying they tempted people to idleness, lounging around drinking cider instead of working perhaps, while others praised them as God's gift, a natural bounty.
Interesting. And there was a kid's version, too.
Right, ciderkin, a very weak, watered-down version of cider, apparently barely stronger than juice. Children drank it. It shows how these local drinks were integrated into daily life for everyone, offering another safer alternative to water.
Could you imagine kids drinking weak, fermented apple juice at school today? That's quite a thought. And cider was even used as currency.
In some places, yes. Valuable enough to pay rent or taxes, it really offers a glimpse into the gentler, maybe more rustic aspects of medieval life. Sharing simple, fruit-based drinks, perhaps around a hearth, a softer side, as you said.
Definitely. Okay, from the soft tang of cider, let's move into a realm where drinks often blurred the lines between medicine and refreshment. Herbal remedies and monastic brews.
A fascinating area. For herbal brews, we're talking about medicine and comfort combined. When plain water was dangerous and ale may be too heavy or unavailable, people turned to infusions, made from common plants like chamomile, fennel, mint.
And they believed these actually worked.
They certainly believed they could calm nerves, aid digestion, or simply soothe the spirit. Whether they had significant physiological effects is another question. Scholars debate if the belief itself was maybe stronger than the herbs.
Placebo effect, perhaps.
Possibly. But these preparations were the folk pharmacy of the time. This knowledge, passed down through generations, often orally, was the primary medical resource for many ordinary people.
And here's where it gets really wild, right? Some of the ingredients.
Oh, absolutely. Some recipes included truly bizarre things. We're talking about crushed snail shells for strength, maybe dried toad skin for endurance, or even powdered antlers for vitality.
Dried toad skin. Seriously.
Yeah.
Wow. These sound like medieval health drinks that doubled as dares.
Pretty much. You'd have to be quite desperate or very trusting to try some of them. It certainly encourages thinking critically about remedies then and now.
No kidding. Okay, so that's the folk side. What about the monks?
The monastic brews. Monasteries were often centers of, well, advanced brewing for the time. They produced high quality and often stronger ales for their own sustenance, for hospitality to travelers, and sometimes even as a source of wealth.
So the monks were the unsung brewmasters.
In many ways, yes. They weren't just making average village ale. Monastic brewing was often more systematic, almost scientific. They had written recipes, often in Latin, and likely better control over the process. This resulted in darker, richer, stronger ales generally.
And I heard a quirky detail. Some monks timed brewing cycles with church bells.
There are stories like that, yes. Blending piety with precise brewing. It's a great image.
And the irony is pretty striking, isn't it? Monks sworn to simplicity, becoming renowned brewers, sometimes even generating significant wealth from their high-quality products.
It is quite ironic. Their ale was also considered liquid sustenance, especially during fasting seasons like Lent when solid food was forbidden or restricted. It acted as a kind of clever loophole for nourishment, ensuring they remained strong enough for their duties.
Liquid bread indeed, but maybe a bit stronger. It's easy to imagine the faint glow of alcohol warming your chest in that setting, a drink that was both sacred and potentially intoxicating.
Precisely.
Okay, next we journey into even older traditions and then into newer, fiery innovations. Mead and the rise of stronger spirits.
Mead first, an ancient drink, really, ceremonial, made from honey, carrying this rich tapestry of myths and traditions. It predated many medieval kingdoms, linked in lore to warriors, feasts, even gods.
Was it common in the Middle Ages, though?
That's debated. Some scholars think its heyday might have been earlier, and by the medieval period, it was perhaps fading a bit into nostalgia or reserved for very special occasions. Others argue it was still quite prevalent in certain areas.
It's often described poetically, like liquid sunlight captured in a cup.
Yes, that kind of imagery, and a great detail. Mead was frequently spiced, much like wine, with herbs like rosemary or thyme, maybe fruit juices, and there was a specific medicinal variant called metheglin.
Metheglin, okay. And it was used ceremonially.
Very much so. Raised at weddings, harvests, big feast days. And get this, the tradition of giving newlyweds honey wine for a month is thought to be the origin of the word honeymoon.
No way, honeymoon comes from mead. That's brilliant.
Isn't it? Its taste was often thick, floral, strong. It held this powerful symbolic connection, sometimes to the divine. But honey was precious, and proper fermentation took patience, making mead a special gift.
Imagine sipping a drink that felt like it carried ancient stories in every drop, connecting you to warriors and old traditions.
Exactly. But from these ancient traditions, we also see the sharp future of drink emerging: distilled spirits.
Right, the hard stuff.
Pretty much. The emergence of potent, fiery aquavitae, things like brandy and other early distilled spirits, was still somewhat experimental in the medieval period. Its origin is debated. Was it first intended strictly for medicine or also for merriment? But these liquids were undeniably different, clear and biting.
And they called it aquavitae.
Yes, literally water of life, because that fiery burn, that potency, was initially believed to preserve health, extend youth, even cure diseases. So it truly existed on this razor's edge, seen as potential medicine, but also potentially pure danger.
It makes you consider how often innovations start for one purpose and end up used quite differently.
Absolutely. Their practicality, though, became clear. Spirits were concentrated, portable, and much more resistant to spoilage than ale or wine. This made them valuable for trade, for long journeys, especially for sailors later on.
And the social impact must have been huge.
Profound. Unlike the communal sharing of ale, spirits represented something different. Raw power, bottled and unleashed, as one writer put it. It quickly led to concerns about excess and was considered dangerous, even sinful, by some commentators. It really was the sharp future of drink arriving in a medieval world.
A powerful shift. Okay, finally, let's wrap up our journey with perhaps the most unassuming yet utterly essential drinks: small beer and soothing nightcaps.
Yes, small beer first. The quiet, unassuming, indispensable workhorse drink, especially for peasants and laborers. It provided hydration and some sustenance without significant intoxication.
Describe it for us.
Pale, thin, very weak, very low alcohol content, maybe less than 1%. It was often brewed from the leftover grains after the main batch of stronger ale had been made. So it was cheap, abundant, and consumed by almost everyone, including children and workers throughout the day.
So this purpose wasn't to impress, just to keep people going.
Exactly. To sustain and hydrate without making people drunk, allowing them to perform long hours of physical labor. Now, scholars debate its true nutritional value. Some see it as little more than flavored water, while others argue it still provided useful calories and micronutrients.
And that detail about using the grains multiple times is fascinating.
It really shows that efficiency mindset. The first brewing might be for a strong ale for the Lord or for guests. Later batches, using the same grains, would produce progressively weaker small beer. It was like the ghost of stronger brews, ensuring nothing was wasted, every drop wrung out of the harvest.
Wow, the rhythm of peasant life, rarely celebrated but utterly vital.
Absolutely. It highlights the quiet power of a humble drink that literally kept the medieval world turning.
And then, at the end of that long, hard day, soothing nightcaps.
Right. These were the often overlooked, usually non-alcoholic drinks used for comfort and rest. Think warm milk, perhaps diluted broths, or herbal infusions again, chamomile, mint, fennel maybe boiled in water or milk.
What was the goal? Just winding down.
Pretty much. To calm the stomach after maybe a coarse meal, soothe the mind, ease restless sleep after days of toil. Just like we might have a cup of herbal tea today.
Were they common, though? Or a luxury?
Again, scholars debate. Access to fresh milk or honey and specific herbs might have made them more of a luxury for some, but the basic idea of a warm, calming drink before bed seems plausible for many.
And there was a sort of medieval eggnog?
Apparently so. Some households mixed egg yolks into hot wine or milk to create thick, custard-like drinks. Warm, nourishing, comforting.
Sounds quite nice, actually.
These gentle drinks provided medicine disguised as warmth, really. A way to wind down, prepare for rest. A real contrast to the more stimulating or purely functional drinks we've discussed. It reminds us that comfort and rest were just as crucial then as they are now.
What a journey we've been on. We've traveled from the terrifying murk of medieval well water to the thick nourishment of daily ale, the refined elegance of spiced wine, the rustic charm of cider, the ancient mystique of mead, and that fiery kick of early spirits. We've really seen how drinks define status, supposedly cured ailments, and cemented communities.
Absolutely. These beverages weren't merely liquids, they were completely integral to medieval survival, culture, identity. Every single cup held a story of ingenuity, tradition, and adaptation in what was often a very challenging world.
So as you reflect on this journey through medieval cups, maybe consider this. In our world today, with endless choices and constant information, how many of these ancient solutions, from herbal teas for comfort to communal drinks for connection, do we still echo in our modern lives, often without even realizing it?
That's a great question.
What simple comfort or vital necessity do you cherish in your daily cup, coffee, tea, even just clean water, that a medieval person might genuinely have considered a miracle? Something to think about.